Here today, I want to talk to you a little bit about EPLAN, and really our motto is efficient engineering when the plan becomes EPLAN. I'll try to explain that a little bit, but before I do so, let's talk a little bit about where we come from. Let's see here. This is something that some of you know, Rittal and EPLAN somehow work together in a lot of industries. So you may find us in various industries. Doesn't really matter where you come from. You will probably have seen or touched something where EPLAN or Rittal is actually active. We are often very well known for the automotive sector. In the automotive sector, there are different suppliers, different areas where we are active in this since day one. We have the Maritimes where we are also quite active. Of course, in different countries more than in others. Obviously depends on what in those countries is actually there. Even here in Canada, different provinces have different industries. We have the food and beverage. And one thing that is actually in common for all of those, when you talk about controls, is that you all end up going through these phases that you see here: engineering, sourcing, and fabricating, manufacturing the automation itself. So putting it into a eventually Rittal panel and setting the whole automation together. So we call it very typically the panel shops, but it's a panel shop can be in any of your industries. And this is something that is common to pretty much all the industries that we talked about. Just to put a little bit in perspective, Rittal and EPLAN, maybe Andre, you can talk a little bit more about Rittal itself, the size and...
Of course. So 3.5 billion Canadian dollar company. Oh, sorry. I apologize. $3.5 billion company based out of Germany, a global player. We're truly worldwide. 12,000 employees and multiple sites across the world, 80 subsidiaries, I believe, and well known for making enclosures, but we do all kinds of other products that are connects to the enclosure world.
Yeah. And we're the division within this group that actually does the software. Now, when we talk about software and software solutions, Rittal and EPLAN work together here on the four fronts to make this whole journey a little bit more efficient for everyone. So more productive, faster, more reliable, better. And when you really have everything organized, interfaced, talking to each other, we're talking about engineering, we're talking about sourcing, manufacturing, and operations, this is really where you can save time and reduce. And I think this is something that is really important. But this is really, you know, if you want the full scope. What I'm going to talk about a little bit more today is the engineering and the sourcing side. So I'm going to dig in a little bit on that side. Not to go too far, I'm going to start basically by looking at the picture today in most cases. Most cases today, you all recognize these different departments here: sales, mechanical, CAD system, mechanical design, electrical, the ERP, the sourcing people, purchasing, admin, PLC people, the stock, and somewhere us as suppliers on one side trying to service all of you. Now, what happens very often is when you dig in and you look into how they do things and what kind of data they use, everyone uses a different type of data. Some people do a drawing as a DWG drawing. Some people have some IO list. Some people have it in a panel drawing. The one thing that is pretty common to this industry is even before the COVID, we always kept 2 meters apart. We kept most of these different tools away from each other and somewhat trying to transfer things around. It's safe to a certain point because there's no touching, but it's certainly not the wise way to do it. Now, what we want to do, the big picture with the safer data in mind, what we want to do is to actually try to think about how we can get safer data through the whole system, through this big picture. Now, it all starts with smart data to start with, and I'm going to talk about the data portal a little bit later. It's a cloud system that we put together with all of our partners to provide you the correct parts so that when you do your electrical design, you can actually pick from the cloud the correct parts. And by joining all this into one tool, what we actually do is we integrate all these different informations that lay in different areas into one common tool. So you're talking about an efficient engineering just simply because you automatically do a lot of the tasks that typically are done manually, okay? And the intention behind this is to increase the accuracy of the bill of material. On top of that, we try to also do a 3D layout with the same tool, with the same data. So you're not basically guessing, you're basically just picking within the same tool to eventually also come up with some routing information, which we pretend can actually do a calculation of length. And it comes with it just the NC drilling data. Now, what we have to know, and this is why I'd like Andre maybe to talk a little bit about what Rittal can do with the NC drilling on their side.
So once we have what's called the digital twin, which is basically an image that is in cloud, but is real, you can actually bring it down to a physical panel or a physical wire and create it as it's supposed to be. So you're going to take a steel enclosure and you'll modify it as you would have done manually through a machine. You're going to have the exactitude of your plan because you've done that in 3D right down to the millimeter. And every time I talk about this process, people go, well, but is it going to be accurate? And I say, we can print 3D parts to a millionth of a millimeter. It's super accurate. We can do the same thing on steel enclosures, wires, etc.
Yeah. So imagine we could, from this package that has all that data, actually do this in one stroke. Hand out the whole project. Rittal sends back the complete pre-drilled package. So we're actually eliminating one task entirely within the manufacturing side. And what we pretend is actually on the manufacturing side, if we can help each other or help you, we can reduce also that portion, which is the manufacturing. But I'm not going to talk too much about it. Andre will talk about it a little bit later. So before we actually start, let's talk about safer data. EPLAN Data Portal. The EPLAN Data Portal is a cloud system where inside EPLAN, inside the EPLAN application, we have access to zillions of parts. Parts that have electrical information, parts that have mechanical information, parts that have functional information, plus the correct order number. So technically speaking, let's say we look at a company like here, Rittal. I want a box. Fine. Box is easy. You pick the box, you drag and drop it. Well, what Rittal did on top of that, they actually created a configurator that is actually built inside of EPLAN if you want to. So you can pre-configure all kinds of options. What kind of options can we talk about when we talk about RIX?
RIX is, for all intents and purposes, an online CAD software, but simplified, where a non-CAD user could actually make a 3D CAD. You'll make your cutouts, you'll do your drilling pattern, you'll have all accessories that you want to add in. It will create your 3D, your 2D, your parts list, your assembly instructions, your hole patterns. Everything will come out of this online platform. It's available 24/7. It's completely free. And what outputs comes out of it goes directly to our machines. So what you've produced, and again, in a digital twin, can become a physical reality.
So the nice thing about this is we even have access to whatever is created here inside EPLAN. So that means we all know the box is the outside, is a frame, right? Now we have to fill it. Now, to be able to fill it, of course, I basically take that box and fill it. Now, I fill it with what? Let's say, and here I'm going to introduce a little bit some of the partners that you will see here at the German Technology Day. TILS is one. Let's say you're looking for a very specific part, 2A000011. You could go on Google and Google it, but you'll probably find a hard time to find all the data. Here, what we propose with Pills Together, we propose one common platform, one singular place, the data portal, where you can just type in your part number and bingo, you get all the data. And you can just drag and drop it inside EPLAN. Drag and drop, done. So you fill your panel automatically from that data portal with the exact twin of the component. Of course, that's not the only one. Wago did the same thing. Wago also same thing. You pick up some parts, you find the part, you drag and drop. Of course, when we talk about panels, we also talk about another portion about the panel, which is the schematics. Try to find the connections of these pins somewhere on Google. You'll have a hard time. Sometimes you'll spend half an hour trying to find the correct connectivity in a PDF that has maybe 150 pages or so. On page 97, you'll find the connectivity. Here, it's just a drag and drop in the schematics, and then you can start your schematics. Festo, interesting partner, also very well known for pneumatic components. Of course, we can draw pneumatics with EPLAN too, but they also have other things than pneumatics. Bosch and Rexroth, interesting. They're often known for their hydraulics, but they also have a lot of electronics. They're going to present here what they do have, and they actually have configurators. Some of these configurators enable you, a little bit like the rigs, to pick different options, all nicely put together. And at the end of the day, you just drag and drop your component onto the schematics and you connect it like I did here on this schematic. Another one is Mirror Electronic. Same thing. They created all their parts, drag and drop, done. And this for about 300-400 different manufacturers, close to 1 million parts that are available in that data portal. And the end of the game is just the accuracy of the bill of material. Inside EPLAN, some people don't know, when you do the engineering, at one point in time, you always have to keep up with your bill of material. And keeping up with the bill of material when you have 2 meter distance, or when these files are basically Excel and something else, it's very hard to get them together. Here in EPLAN, it's all in one common platform, generates the exact bill of material, even with a picture if you want to, for the kitting people that actually get the parts. Or even better, I can just simply generate an Excel sheet. That Excel sheet can right away tell me what is the perfect size of my panel. It's just a simple calculation. The height times the width. I do the area. I divide by 4. Boom, done. I get basically an average panel of 1.3 meters, 1,300 by 1,300 would do it. So if I fit it on a 1,000 by 800, I know I'm going to be squeezed with the data that I have. Okay, very quickly you can do that kind of thing. Another thing about talking about safety is also when you get inside EPLAN, you talk about drawing a schematic with a certain logic. That logic can be analyzed. Here, I have an example of all the different design rule checks that one can actually have inside EPLAN. You can make sure, we're talking about safety, so you make sure that you don't have any shortcuts between 0 volt and 24 volts. You can have all kinds of different tricks here that can be turned on and off. So that's basically just part of the software. It comes with the software itself. Another thing that is part of the big benefit is the so-called digital twin. Here's a cute example. I couldn't say really cute because it's a big example of a set of TS8s stuck together with various options. By creating this digital twin, not only did we really get the details on what goes inside, and you can imagine in a panel like this, the bill of material is quite extensive, but you can also nail it down to exactly one copper bar and exactly the bending that you need on that copper bar. So at the end of the day, with a very simple tool, a simple assembly, you can do very complex drawings. And these are just examples here of the type of documentation that can come out of this to help the people assemble this whole kit, right? And this is the kind of work that we do, Rittal and EPLAN together.
Roman, if I may,
yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say one quick word about that panel. That allowed the customer here in Canada to communicate back with their customer in Portugal and the end customer in the US to share the information rapidly. Everything was done within EPLAN, within ePulse. It made the customer's life so much easier. They didn't even understand that this existed. So just as an ease of access.
That's interesting. ePulse. You heard the word ePulse, safer document management. Now, you probably saw these pictures for the last 2 years over and over and over, right? We're talking about the COVID. I'm talking about a PDF file. Imagine a PDF file that you send out to 2 colleagues. They send it out to 2 colleagues. They send it out to another 2 colleagues. By the end of the week, 16, 25 people have that same PDF. How do you manage that documentation that you send out? Very hard. What we offer is the ePulse. ePulse is a simple cloud solution. What we do is we upload the project, boom, and now the project can be viewed anywhere around the world. Instantaneously, when you look at a project, whether it's schematics or 3D, doesn't matter, you can also put some redlinings in there. So the communication is instantaneous. The guy can be in Brazil down there or anywhere in the world, look up the drawings, 2D or 3D schematics or anything else that you did, mark it up, and instantaneously your designer, depending if he has the rights or not, will actually be able to see it inside EPLAN instantaneously. That's really a nice thing. So that's a new solution for document management integrated into our tools. And this really helps manufacturing, because if I can spit over very quickly to manufacturing all these interesting informations and control who gets them down on the shop floor, they can just be more efficient on that side. I'm not going to go too much in detail because this is really the specialty of Rittal, and the portfolio is quite impressive. So this is what they have in as a plan for you. What I'm going to do a little bit is talk a little bit about our plan. Now, I'm not going to go too much in detail on this because this is our plan. This is an implementation plan, a milestone list of things that we plan on engineering, manufacturing, operations, and sourcing. But interestingly is for every single action that is turned here into green, it turns into efficiency and money for the users that actually use it or implement it. Interestingly is the way we actually qualified this. We here with EPLAN, and actually based on an initiative from Rittal, we started something called the EPLAN Certified System Integrator Program. And the idea behind the scene was anyone out there looking for someone using our tool wanted to have some sort of a gauge, a value of how efficient are they? I mean, using EPLAN is one thing, but how well are you using EPLAN? What are you using of EPLAN? How well did you integrate the mod center, the use of the mod center to actually not do the drilling in-house and have a perfect drilling, to eventually have a wire cutting center like the one we're showing outside to save in time, things that Andre will actually show a little bit later. How far did you push your efficiency, right? How far did you fine tune it? And we made up 3 different levels like this. We already have in that program a couple of companies, and for those companies, I'd like you guys to come and see us at the booth a little bit later. We have something to give you there, like a small frame that Ruben, thanks to Ruben, put all together so you can hang it up. But really, this is a window of opportunity for all integrators to show off what they do, independently of who they work with. So that's an interesting success story we have here. And yeah, thank you for the time listening.